Welcome to Stay Humble, Shawn from GRM Sport. Okay, and how are you feeling today, Shawn? So, shall we ask you a three-word check-in to sum how you are feeling?
So my three-word check-in would be probably tired, motivated, and dedicated, I would say.
Yeah, I'm quite excited in terms of listening to this conversation with yourself. I'm looking forward to finding out like how you found your sort of purpose with GRM. And I'm just, looking forward to the future as well. Looking forward to future plans of Stay Humble and listening to your future plans of GRM Sport as well. And firstly, I just wanted to sort of ask is like, how did you find your purpose with GRM Sport in terms of how did you decide upon this sort of concept in terms of grassroots sport?
Yeah, so, I mean, I've been asked this question a few times, and there isn't like a really clear answer, really. I think, so obviously GRM Sport, if people aren't familiar, is a media platform for grassroots rugby clubs. And it started in 2017, and it sort of blew up from the beginning, really. I would say, obviously, I played rugby, and I've always been interested in filmmaking and making videos. And before I was filming rugby games, I was traveling a lot. So I'm quite lucky I get quite a lot of time off for work. So I'm always traveling with my fiance. And every location we went to, I'd make like a short video of that particular location. So I got really good at editing and filming. So it's quite addictive as well. So I got really addicted to camera gear. I'm always buying new camera gear and stuff like that, like new drones, etc. And it got to the point where we wasn't traveling as much. And I wanted to film something just to keep that addiction going of filming and editing sort of thing. And I was playing rugby, quite high standard. And one day I said to the lads at my club, would you like me to film the game? I want to make like a cinematic video, not just like not like your standard gantry video where you sort of stand up on a ladder and film left to right for 80 minutes. I wanted to move around the pitch and make like a cinematic type of promo video for the club. And I did that. It went absolutely mental. Everyone loved it. And different clubs were asking me, can you come down to our club and film our pitch or our game, etc., our teams? And from there, I was like, you know what, this could actually be a big platform where I could film a different team on a weekly basis sort of thing. So that's one avenue you can look at how it started. Another way is, I'm not sure if you watched NFL, but I don't really watch American football in terms of the weekly fixtures. I watch more like NFL films. So they've got All or Nothing on Amazon, which is like documentaries about each team. And I absolutely love those documentaries. I know they did it All or Nothing on Spurs and Man City as well, and from a football sense. And I love those sort of cinematic sports documentaries. And that's where I want to go with my own platform kind of thing. So I think it's been inspired by what's there in place already, like the NFL films. And also just my own motivation to build grassroots sports, I suppose.
Yeah, and what made you sort of go towards Rugby League, firstly? Like, what made you head into that sort of direction?
Yeah, so probably didn't mention I'm from a rugby union background. The first video I made was of rugby union, of Valencians, my rugby club. But then I decided that rugby union, from a cinematic point of view, unless you have loads of cameras, isn't that easy to capture, and it's a lot slower than rugby league. So rugby league is loads of big hits, very fast plays, whereas union's a lot slower. So after every phase, we call it, there is a ruck, and that slows the game down. Then you have scrums and lineouts, and your videos are a lot more slower and less, action-packed than rugby league. And also, living in a hole where rugby league is basically God, I had to choose the sport which everyone loved. Rugby union globally is a bigger sport. I'd probably get more views if I did union. However, I've come to really love rugby league in terms of, how embedded they are in the community. And it's the style of play. It's quicker, it's more interesting. And I think going forward, in terms of, I'm not sure if watchability is a word. In terms of watchability, viewability, rugby league is a lot more enticing to like a neutral person who's never watched rugby before. I think if you were to sit somebody down and put a video on of rugby union and rugby league, and had to choose at the end which one they want to watch again, they'll probably choose rugby league because it's just easier to consume if you've never played rugby before. Whereas you would find most union supporters have either played rugby union or their families are really involved in rugby union, so they've grown up knowing the rules, knowing why there's a line out, knowing why there's a scrum. Whereas rugby league, you can sort of just watch it once and fall in love with it straight away. So there's many reasons why I film rugby league. At the moment, it's my number one sport. I absolutely love it. Never played it. I played it for like 2 games. I gave it a try. I've also played a charity game, which was half league, half union. And weirdly, we won the game in the league half, which I was surprised by. But in terms of like playing experience, I've barely played rugby league, so I have no idea what I'm doing. I want to play it. But in terms of watching it, I've watched hundreds of hours of rugby league whilst making my own videos, and I absolutely love it. So.
No, I would agree with you. I could imagine a lot of people in that sort of where if you give them the opportunity to either watch rugby league and rugby union, they would obviously most likely just jump straight into rugby league in terms of it being more action packed and probably much more easier to follow and stuff like that. What other in terms of sort of the other sports as well? Because I've seen that you've also looked into trying to do some sort of you've done boxing before and netball. Yeah. What made you decide to look into other sports as well that you were interested in the local area?
So as a kid, I was terrible at football. The only sports I did as a kid was boxing and rugby. So I was more top heavy. I was always physically strong, but I wasn't technically gifted in my feet. I couldn't kick a ball in the direction I was thinking of in my brain, sort of thing. So I excelled at rugby, excelled at boxing as a kid. So I thought, I want to give back to the sports which inspired me and film these sports to make them bigger, especially at a grassroots level. So I started with rugby. When I looked to expand GRM Sport, I looked at filming boxing as well. So I filmed boxing for a couple of, they call them festivals, I think they call them. I'm not entirely sure what they call the events they put on for. Oh, they call them boxing shows, don't they? So I went to a couple of boxing shows, and I get my most watched video rugby-wise is about 140,000 views, and my most watched video boxing-wise was about 3,000 views, I think maybe. And so the viewership was tiny compared to rugby. And so from a business point of view, I couldn't continue with the boxing because when I film rugby, there's a minimum of 26 people on the pitch, plus their parents, plus coaches, plus all their friends and their schools and their workplaces who might share the video. Whereas when I film boxing, it's just 1 against 1, and they don't have that larger network for the video to go viral. So even though I'm really passionate about these sports, the level that my platform's at now isn't ready to take on boxing because it won't get the same viewership as rugby does. But I still absolutely love boxing. I still want to get involved in grassroots boxing. I've trialed it, and sometimes from a business point of view, you have to be honest to yourself, and the business isn't ready yet to make boxing a big thing on our platform. But I'm hoping that in the future it will be, because it's something I absolutely love. But I'm an honest person. I won't keep trying at something which isn't working. Sometimes I have to go back to a drawing board and try again. And for the time being, boxing is going to come off the platform and maybe replaced with football, purely because it's more of a team sport and the videos will do better across the platform.
Yeah, I can understand that. And I mean, it must have been huge for yourself. Like I saw, obviously, last year that the RFL got involved with GRM in terms of helping, spread the word of grassroots media and obviously giving you a bigger, wider scope of growing that brand. How was that as a partnership?
Yeah, I mean, I actually feel sorry for the RFL because they literally can't do anything without getting negative press. Everything they do goes under the radar, and I work quite close to the RFL, so I know what they're doing behind the scenes for the sport. But a lot of people are saying, RFL can be doing better, but from my point of view, they're doing a fantastic job. Obviously, they funded me for the past 2 seasons, which has been massive because it gets me to and from games. It means I can do clubs which I never did before, a bit further afield in Lancashire, in London, in Cumbria, and Northwest, so in Newcastle sort of area. Well, when I first started, I was only doing Yorkshire teams, and to be honest with you, in the very, very beginning, I was only doing whole-based teams. Then I expanded to Yorkshire, and the RFL maybe basically expand nationwide. So now I think we're pretty much the biggest grassroots platform in the country in terms of from a media point of view. But whenever I post things on Twitter, some people forget or aren't really clued up on the fact that me and the RFL have a partnership. whenever I post a video on Twitter or anything on social media, people say, look how good GRM Sport's promoting grassroots. The RFL should be supporting GRM Sport. But in actual fact, they are already supporting me. And at the start of all my videos, it says in partnership with the RFL. I'm just trying to make it clear that if it wasn't for the RFL, some of these videos wouldn't have happened. Last week I was in Saddleworth in Lancashire, and if it wasn't for the RFL, I would have been doing the Yorkshire team that week. So people need to realise that the RFL are doing a lot of hard work behind the scenes, and they've been very, very good to me. Another thing as well is rugby union hasn't come back, and it's looking like union won't kick off until September 2021, whereas the RFL have really taken a case to the government and said, look, rugby league is really important to the community. There's no way we can wait that long without playing rugby league. And lo and behold, we're back playing rugby league before Christmas, whereas rugby union haven't been as proactive, and their grassroots clubs are struggling for money now because a huge earner is the players paying subs and paying for beers behind the bar, etc. With the clubs being shut, some of these clubs are in really, really big trouble, whereas the RFL have been really proactive, and now the clubs are able to function properly once again, so it's good.
So you would think that Rugby League have a really good opportunity now, maybe of growing the game in these parts, where Rugby League isn't so predominant, the Yorkshire, your Lancashires and your Cumbrias. There's a chance maybe now for these sort of clubs, maybe further south and Midlands could maybe pick up and maybe build a Rugby League teams, or the opportunity of these clubs not playing at rugby union level.
Yeah, one thing they can do is capitalise on union not playing, but also it's the World Cup next summer as well. Rugby League World Cup. And I always tell the story about how I got into rugby. I got into rugby because I was watching the World Cup final as a 10-year-old, and Jason Robertson scored the final try and Johnny Wilkinson scored the final drop goal for us to beat Australia. And that event got me into rugby. Before then, growing up in the suburbs of London, all my friends supported Arsenal, Spurs. We're all football fans. And even though I was terrible at football, I was a massive Arsenal fan. That was the only sport I really cared about in terms of watching. But having watched the Rugby World Cup, it got me into playing rugby myself. And so next year, the RFL's got a huge opportunity to not only gain fans through union not actually playing at grassroots level, they can expand into the Midlands, like you said, because they've got the World Cup on BBC. All the games are shown on BBC. I've asked the RFL to show as much community fixtures from my footage as they can, to show clubs, what it's like at grassroots level, to try and attract more players as well. So hopefully the RFL sort of take heed of my advice and we see some grassroots footage on the BBC, who knows? But it's a massive, massive opportunity next year for the RFL to sort of grow the game. So hopefully they have like an action plan in place.
Yeah, I would totally agree with you on that. Like, next year is a massive year for Rugby League in terms of the World Cup and the opportunity of the exposure that it could give. Like I say, it obviously depends on a number of circumstances at the moment. Obviously, with the with COVID and stuff like that, there's some obviously big restrictions regarding that. Can I ask you, in terms of what's the challenges been for yourself, obviously with GRM? Obviously this would have been your 5th season, would it have been, of GRM this year?
This would have been the end of my 4th season.
4th.
But really, I'm on episode 5 of season 4, so it barely even got started. I filmed 4 games in March, then we went into lockdown. I filmed the 5th game last week with a 7-month break. So at the end of this season, it's looking like maybe a 10-episode season, when usually it's like a 32-episode season. But the biggest challenges for me, I would say, from a filming, editing, videography point of view, music, just trying to get fresh music is difficult because obviously the musicians want to get paid, so all your best songs are copywritten. So if you want to know copyright music, you're looking at some really terrible songs. But I'm quite dedicated to my platform, so I spend hours, at the gym or walking my dog, just listening to non-copyright music. And when a good song comes up, I just save it ready for a video. But it does take hours of dedication to find the right song. I'm not sure if it's me being OCD, but everything I do, I'm massively attention to detail. Another challenge would be maybe just from a growth point of view. I think, the fact that some of my videos have over 100,000 views, I know some of the kids may have watched their video more than once, so let's just say maybe 50,000 people watch that video. There's still 50,000 people watching grassroots rugby. However, that's not regular for me. I want to see that on a regular basis. I think with it being my 4th year, I want the platform to be bigger than where it is now. So I think challenge for me is, music and maybe it's growing and expanding the platform. It's not happening as fast as I want it to. It is slow and steady, but sometimes you just have to put the brakes on and just go with the flow kind of thing. But I do wish I was growing faster than I am.
Yeah, I can imagine it's been very difficult. Obviously, like the games had to stop and made it very challenging for that factor. And obviously, as well, like it's not like the academies have been able to play or any of the sort of reserve grades, which would probably give you an opportunity as well to record. They're sort of the challenges that you've faced in terms of the lack of exposure to sort of them things has been difficult. I can imagine. I mean, it's great that you're obviously able to now start recording a few games. I know you've got one tomorrow, obviously. Is that like a festival that you're going to be doing?
Yeah. So there should be festivals. Obviously, under 10 level or younger, they're called festivals where you have more than one team and they sort of do a carousel, round robin type thing, and every team plays each other. However, because of coronavirus, they're just doing one-on-one fixtures. So it's going to be the first time where I film this age group. It's literally like a one-on-one fixture, which is probably good for them as well. They get more exposure rather than me rotating around different clubs. It's been focused on them. So that's Hull against East Hull. That's good. Apparently both teams are really, really good. So I'm looking forward to that. When I post it, a lot of people are saying that's going to be a really good fixture. So I'm really excited. But just to touch on what you said about the academies, etc., and about creating a challenge, you're right, because the academies and your older age groups are where most of my views come from, and like your more sort of talented teams in terms of professional structure. So my most watched video is England under-16s against France under-16s, because it's a high standard of rugby, and because they're not playing at the moment, that's obviously limiting my growth. And at the start of the season, I predicted that, projected that I'll have 10,000 subscribers by the end of this season. But that's not going to happen because of coronavirus. So again, that's created another challenge. But you just have to be forward thinking and get over it. I know some people are in worse positions than I am, so I'm not complaining too much. It's just disappointing. I'll say it's more disappointing than anything else.
Has there anything from this period been able to create something, like, is something in your head, like being able to create ideas for GRM media? Has there been things because of this opportunity? Have you been able to think, I'd like to include that as the different cameras, as the different methods, or, is there anything different that you would like to change to GRM because of this opportunity to look at it like?
Yeah, 100%. Because I've had so much time off, I've had a lot of time to think. And like everyone else, I spent a lot of time watching Netflix, and I just love the cinematics and the quality of Netflix programs. And I would love for my platform to reach that level of production. And like I mentioned earlier, the all or nothing programs on Spurs, Man City, the NFL programs, I would love for my platform to have that style of cinematics where it's like sports documentary based. Because at the moment, my videos are literally just music videos with rugby in the background. Or vice versa, rugby with music in the background. But I was speaking to the RFL maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago about my plans for next year. And I said, next year I'm going to try out a more narrative base when I start filming. So, drone's going to fly into the pitch and it'll have a voiceover saying, right, today we're at Stanley against East Leeds. Maybe go into their best player, how many tries did he score last season, go into their coach, what's the coach's background, and then start the game, just to give people a bit more narrative and personal understanding of each club, because every club is different. And based on my 7 to 10 minute videos now, you're not really getting an in-depth understanding of every club. Whereas, during lockdown, I was thinking, how can I make people understand how massive a club Siddle is or West Hull is? And it's quite easy, just putting more narrative into my videos, just like your Netflix programs. So hopefully I can implement that. If not next season, the season after. I'm getting married next year, so filming, etc., is going to be on the back burner, because it does take a lot of my time. So if I was to change the format of the platform, I want to give 100% of my time to it. So I might have to wait until season 6, after the wedding and honeymoon's all done with, sort of thing. So.
Can understand. And with the, you're saying about like the all or nothing stuff, You know, that really would be something I think that would give sort of content, like you say, to teams. I think it'd be a really interesting perspective to show people what, you know, a rugby team, certainly at like a professional level, you know, what they do behind the scenes, you know, probably some of the stuff that the players go through to just put themselves on a pitch. I think that'd be a really great insight and offering to people to show like what a rugby league player puts themselves through to just put themselves on that field. I think it'd be a really great insight if you could find that opportunity to show that case that.
Yeah, I was real tempted to, people asked me, in fact, just focus on just one club and follow that club from the start of the season to the end of the season. And I was tempted to do it with Hunslet Club Parkside because they had back-to-back promotions and then they won the NCL and they put on really good shifts in the Challenge Cup against professional teams. And they would have been a good team to follow from start to finish. However, the reason why I didn't is because if I'm following one team, there's, you know, tens of teams, or so many teams and thousands of players who are missing out on my coverage because nobody else covers grassroots rugby in the country. So if I was to only focus on one team and have behind the scenes, in depth, you know, watch the lads go off to their jobs and then go to training afterwards, then play on the weekends and put in really good shifts. You know, they're really talented lads, especially in the NCL. A lot of these guys are ex-pros or ex-academy lads. But the reason why I didn't go down that route is purely because I can't be in two places at once. I can't follow one team for the entire season and also do, you know, every other team as I have been doing. So it's almost a case of that might have to wait until I expand. I need to get more videographers down. I need to employ more people who can film and edit. And that would allow me to explore different things at the same time because I can say, right, Joe, you can go over, film West Hull, and I'll go over and focus on Hunslet this week. But at the moment, I've got a team of about, I think it's 5 of us at the moment, but I'm the only person who goes out and films games. The rest are more correspondents in terms of writing articles for me. So I've got John Mooney, who's really experienced. He used to work at Sky Sports. He was their horse racing correspondent, doing all the horse racing predictions, etc. I've got Harry Brigham, who's got a degree in sports science, etc. And the other 2 are students as well. And so I've got a team, but I'm the only one who films on the team. I need to get a team of people who are going out filming. And that's what's going to hopefully help the platform blow up, sort of thing.
Yeah. And can I ask you on that, in terms, like you said, obviously you would like to maybe like follow like a team, like you say, like Hunslet Parkside in terms of the Challenge Cup. Is there any sort of age group or that you like? I'm not saying that you have a preference, but is there any age group that you've enjoyed like working mostly with? Is it open age? Is it like the sort of minis? Is it the sort of, you know, which one do you feel like you get the most out of from, you know, from like in terms of like the viewership and the sort of interest?
It varies really. Like I love all year groups. The mini stuff is fantastic because seeing the little kids and how excited they are is incredible. It's really rewarding doing like your minis, like your primary school age. Viewership, most of my views come between the under 15s to under 16s range because those kids are the ones who have signed for scholarships. And so they're not only getting coached by their community clubs, but also going off to Leeds Rhinos and like Rowington and St Helens and getting coached there as well. And they're bringing that back to the community and showing their skills off there as well. So under 15s, under 16s always get the most views and they always show off the most skills on camera. The NCL, again, if you do the right team, you can have some really good ex-pros and you can have some really good games. However, they're not as prevalent on social media. So when I put a video out for under 15s, under 16s, they'll share that on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, wherever, WhatsApp groups of all their friends. They're really excited to be on camera. A lot of them watch it on TV. If they got a smart TV, put YouTube on TV, so they feel like they're on TV kind of thing. Whereas with the NCL guys, I know it's not that exciting for them. Some of these guys are already being filmed sometimes on Sky Sports because they've been playing for Hull FC, but they've got released now to play NCL. So getting filmed by a bloke on YouTube isn't really that much of a massive deal. So they don't share it as much as the younger kids do. The younger kids are a bit more enthusiastic about social media. And so I would say if I had to pick a year group which I focus on the most, it would be under 15s, under 16s. If you look at my videos so far this season, I've done one open age game and the other 4 have been under 15s. So I've only done under 15s or open age, and that's because they're the most appealing year groups. But I do spread it out across every year group just to keep it even. But I always start off with those 2 groups.
Yeah, I can imagine that been challenging, obviously, preparing all that in terms of obviously trying to plan it out across the year to make sure that it gets even coverage. And like you said there, I think it's surprising to hear, like you said, the open age don't seem to probably want to share it or watch it as much. I think, I play at Hull Dockers, and I know how much like the excitement was of like the video going out last year when you recorded a number of games there last year. And I'm surprised, like I say, I'm surprised with it just been like a short highlight thing that more people would watch that at that age. But and what I wanted to just touch on now is in terms of what is the future of GRM Sports? What is what is your sort of, if you got your aspirations or goals for, certainly maybe for the end of this year, what's the goals for next year? I mean, obviously with it being a World Cup year, have you thought these things through yet in terms of what your aspirations for how it to grow?
Yeah, I mean, I tried to do like yearly goals. So the start of this year, before I knew coronavirus was going to be a thing, because I was away in Tenerife proposing to my girlfriend on New Year's Day, not knowing that we're going to have this ridiculously crazy year with coronavirus. And one of my goals for the year was to have 10,000 subscribers and 10,000 followers on Instagram, because those are my two biggest platforms, YouTube and Instagram. At the moment, I've got about 8,000 subscribers on YouTube and 6,500 on Instagram. So I'm a long way from that target. So that target's not going to get achieved. So that's going to have to be next year's target. So my target next year is to finish the season with just over 10,000 on both platforms, Instagram and Twitter, just so we get a bit more coverage. But the real long-term goal for the platform is to make it a bit more off-market, cinematic, the sort of thing you expect to see on Netflix or Amazon. But that's far down the future. I'm going to need a lot of funding. I'm going to need some new camera gear. I'm going to need a new team of videographers, etc. And I know we're not there yet. So my main dream is to turn up on a van that has GRM Sport down the side. And, you have 5 or 6 videographers who hop out. You've got a camera person who's dedicated to just capturing the crowd and the coaches just to get their emotions. And you've got a couple of camera crew capturing the rugby. And I know it's hard because Rugby AM, they did a whole season on the NCO and they ended up losing money by covering the NCO. They did it because they were passionate about it. So you have to thank Simo and JJB for putting in so much effort and money to try and promote the NCO, but it actually backfired. It didn't work out for him. So I know to do it properly needs a lot of careful thinking, because I don't want to end up losing money, etc. on doing it. But it is my number one goal to eventually have, really upscaled coverage on grassroots. I would say people love my coverage now and they say it's really good, but I would say that's like, 10% of what I think it could be in the future. So, you have to dream big. I do dream big sometimes, but it gives you something to aim for. It may never be achievable, but you won't know until you try. So the goal is to make it a lot bigger than what it is now.
No, that's really exciting to hear. And I'd like to ask as well, is there any other sports that you would look into using with GRM Sport? Is there any sports that you haven't tried and think, I'd like to do that? Or is it just sticking with what you know?
Rugby is always going to be number one on the platform. Rugby is in the logo. That's never going to change. Obviously, I said I might start doing football next year, depending on the funding. The RFL are the only sort of governing body which fund me at the moment. Like, for example, the FA haven't got back to me. And when I was doing boxing, England Boxing, who run boxing in the country, they never really took a serious interest. They said they were going to support me, but never really took a serious interest. Whereas the RFL got on board and they backed me 100%. And I'm always going to repay them for that. And I'm always going to cover rugby, plus it's my number one passion. Weirdly, somebody asked me last year if I'd be interested in covering golf. And I really do. I do like watching golf. And a lot of people find golf boring, but that's one thing that could happen in a long distance. I'm not sure if it's going to be in the next 2 years, 3 years, who knows, but I am interested in golf. So maybe grassroots golf, who knows. But like I said earlier with the boxing, team sports do better than individual sports like boxing and golf. So ice hockey, a friend of mine is a professional ice hockey player. He asked me if I wanted to come down and film ice hockey. Growing up, I was a massive Mighty Ducks fan, so you could bring that back to life. So who knows, mate? So many sports, and I always give things a go at least once. Like I gave the boxing a go, it didn't work out. We've even tried netball, it didn't work out massively well. So I'm always willing to try and see how things go from there.
No, that's exciting to hear. Like, there's obviously other scopes of sports that you could go down and try that. So, what I want to do now is just kind of ask a few final questions for yourself. And the first one is about what does it mean to be human for yourself?
To be human for me means to take risks and appreciate how short life is. So don't sit on your hands and expect things to just happen out of nowhere. You need to go out and get it. So, I always say to my missus, she always, it always comes across cocky, but I always say to her, I always get everything that I want. And that's not because I'm spoiled or it's been handed to me, but it's because I appreciate how short life is. And if I want something, I make it my 100% goal to get it done, sort of thing, or at least try to get it done. I know things don't happen automatically. You have to go out there and do it for yourself. So for me, to be human being, to be a risk taker and enjoy life to its fullest, because it's short, it goes fast.
No, it's a really good answer. Like, that's the first one I've had in terms of saying to me about risk taking, and that's a good way of looking at it. You've got to take them risks. And finally, I wanted to ask you what helps you stay humble.
What helps me stay humble is remembering how it started off. I remember the first video I made just for fun at my rugby club, and I remember that I was happy to get 400 views. I was like, 400 views is mad. I was imagining a room of 400 people watching my video, and I was like, that'll be a pretty packed room. And because of that, even when I get over 100,000 views, I'm like, remember that feeling when you got something excited you. So I've got a friend who just started a YouTube channel, and he's got 1,000 subscribers. And he said to me, "You've got 8,000 subscribers. Like, you must be really happy with yourself." And I was like, "Nah, nowhere. I'm nowhere where I need to be yet." I mean, there's always another subscriber. So always remember where you started, and always remember that the job is never finished. What it took me to get 8,000 views, I need to do the same thing to get 16,000 and then 32,000. So subscribers, not views. So what helps me stay humble is remembering the starting point. You never forget where you started. Never lose sight of where you started.
Yeah, you've got to keep consistent and know how you got to that position in the first place. I definitely would agree with that, Shawn. And what I want to do is now kind of give you a platform in terms of, for people who want to basically see your videos of GRM Sport in terms of YouTube and Instagram. Can you just give people basically where they need to go for that information?
Yeah, so if you type in GRM Sport in Google, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, anywhere on social media, you should see my platform. Or if you are part of a rugby club, type in your club's name, and maybe I've been there before. Or type in grassroots rugby, that usually helps as well. But essentially, we are a media platform which showcases grassroots rugby mostly, but other sports as well. So check us out on YouTube, subscribe, and let us know what you think of our videos. But like I said earlier, it's only the beginning. There's more to come, hopefully.
No, and I just want to thank you firstly for jumping on this podcast. I've really enjoyed your insight in terms of how you've started GRM, and I wish you all the luck with it for the rest of this season, and certainly for next year, with it being a Rugby League World Cup year as well.
Yeah. Cheers, Dave. I really enjoyed the chat. I think this platform was well timed and well needed. There's a time where everyone's sort of thinking the same questions that you're asking, but they're not asking it themselves. So you're kind of asking and answering questions that people need to hear. And I think you're going to do really well, mate. So keep pushing on. And I thank you for giving me the platform to showcase what I've done as well.
Thank you, Shawn. Thank you for your time.